Well, here we are in the garage with the CX-50. Picked it up a couple weeks ago, and it has a hitch, but there's no wiring plug. I can only guess the person that originally bought it intended to just put a bike rack on it. So I bought a factory wiring kit, and I wanted to do tow mode. So I got the new 7-pin kit. This is the A version. Apparently the original version, they had a longer tail and they routed from a side plug to the middle, and they had issues with it getting melted by the muffler. So this is the new and improved version. Instead of going through a side hole, you go through one of the middle holes directly towards where it's supposed to go. This is the whole deal. You got one big harness. It's got a plug on the left to plug into the lights, a similar plug on the right to plug in the lights. It's got a ground lead. It's got a little control box that does, I don't know what. I may pop that open just to see. Extra connector. It's got the grommet that goes through the floor, and it tails off to the big plug. And you end up with this big clonk of a thing because you got this connector on the back, and then if you end up with a 4-pin adapter on the front, then it's a big chunky thing, and unfortunately I don't have any sort of bracket to attach to. I'm not sure why they did that. So I bought a little L-shaped bracket, and I'm just gonna screw that to the bottom of the plastic bumper. I'm not too sure how well that's going to work. The other thing we got is a couple of tails that are supposed to go between the battery and ground, and they have little fuses in them. Gotta pop those off. Not sure exactly what those do, but I guess we're going to find out. I've also got a little side quest. Somehow they managed to break the little flippy handle for the rear seat. So while I was at it, I bought a new cable. We'll see what we got to do to get that in there. Because you have to take the side panels out anyway to get those in. So let's see how this works. First step in the instruction manual said to flip the seats down, take all your stuff out of it, take the junk out of the back here. There is a connector for the subwoofer if you have one. You can disconnect right there. Foamies come out. Padding comes out. I guess I gotta take this out. Just to get it out of the way, because we need to get the side panels out. That leaves us a bunch of space. Oh, extras, nice. Okay. Next step in the instructions is to pull this centerpiece off of the back. You pull on the rubber stripping here. That peels right off. There is black sticky stuff on that seam. I don't know if that's meant to be glue or it's just meant to seal the seam, but either way you don't want to get into that. There's a little plastic pop here in the center. I don't know if that does a whole lot of nothing. And then they say to just kind of give it a yank. Let's see what happens here. Ick. Okay. Easy peasy. Pops right out. Looks like all the plastic clippies are part of the cover piece. So there's just slots in here. And the next step is there's 2 plastic poppers on either side that I gotta go. And I bought a little thingy. I don't know if it's going to do me any good. Oh, yeah. Easy peasy. There's 2 poppers. Poppers. Alright, so that frees up the back corners of those. Let's put this stuff somewhere. Okay, the next step to free those side panels is there are 8 and 10 millimeter bolts hidden behind the handle and the cargo hook, and there's another one over here in the back. They all have to come loose on both sides, so let's get those popped out. Okay, we pulled those cargo hooks off, and the next piece is hidden behind the rear seat handles. There's another little bolt holding the panel to the framework. Same thing on the other side. So let's pop those two little boogers out. Okay, next step says we need to pull these upper side panels off because there's another fastener at the top edge of the panel. It says start by the window and start yanking. So let's see what happens. Alright, I'm going to start yanking on the left driver's side. Let's see what happens. Okay, pull out at the bottom. One at the top. Okay, another one at the top. And that. And make sure your hands are clean because I keep getting into that black stuff in the back. Get around the side here. Okay, there's a speaker there. Speaker. While we're still in here, there is another popper here at the top of the panel that we have to take out. We'll pop him out of there and then see if that panel comes loose. Alright, left side panel is supposed to be free at this point, so I'm just going to give it a yank, see what happens. Couple of poppers. More poppers. I think it sounds worse than it really is. That's mostly free. Let me see if I can knock the front loose. Because this one I do still need to get in there to change that seat thing. I need to get more of this stuff off because it's tucked underneath this piece and tucked underneath that piece. Well, I think I can reach down behind that panel and thread that seat cable out. And thankfully, the connector for that is right down here in the gap behind the seat. It's just this little gray thing right here. And I think I can just pop that open, just like that. And it's kind of like a bicycle cable. Slide it over and pop it apart. Sweet. I'm going to have to fiddle with that some more to get in there to get that seat popper cable out. But I think as far as trailer wiring, this is really as far as we need to go. Because the plug we need is supposed to be taped on either side right in here. So that's what we need for the trailer harness. And then that really, you're just supposed to tie it along. Go this way. Tie it along with that other harness in the back here. So we get it over on the other side, get it on the left driver's side, and we should be good. Changing that seat cable wasn't so bad. There's one keeper clip in the back here. That's right there. That you gotta slip the cable out of. And then down at the bottom there's one ring keeper that you gotta slide the whole thing up through, and then you gotta feed the new one back through. And in the front there's this little pink adjuster on this clip that you can move it in or out whichever notch you want to adjust the tension. I kind of got it in the middle and it works just fine. So now my seatbelt popper is going to work. So now we can get on to the guts of this project and do the wiring harness. I still got to pop the right side apart, so let me do that. Connector on this side is in a slightly different spot. They hit it up here on the side instead of being down below. But either way, we can get there. Next step in the instructions is they want you to go ahead and mount your bracket where you want it. If you got a ready-made bracket, great. I'm going to have to screw mine to the bumper. They want you to go back into the plastic bumper, then over the hitch bar, and then up, because everything on the right hand side is where the muffler is, and that's where the heat's going to be. So I've got my connector here. This does come apart, so I can get this mounted separately. This does have an O-ring seal in it, so that side's going to be sealed. I'm not real happy with the way these wires come out of the harness on the back side, so I've got some black sticky stuff. I'm going to wrap that all up in to seal it, just to make that more weather protected. And then this will go up into the bumper and then over the tube, and then the grommet will just go up through the floor. So in theory it'll all be to the rear of where the muffler is, so that should be better protected than the original version that got melted. So let's see how this works out. Well, for better or worse, this is what I'm going to go with. It's just screwed into the plastic. I got a backer plate in it, but it's just one layer of plastic, and it sticks down, and it's really burning up my ground clearance by, you know, at least another inch, if not more. So I run the risk of snagging that on something, but I don't have any real good structure there. You do still need to be able to flip the door up. You got to be able to get to it. I can't say I'm real happy with it, but if I go any higher with it, then I don't have anything to attach it to. So if I hit something, it's probably going to yank that popper out. I guess there could be worse things, but we'll see what happens. Pop this little plug out on the right hand side, and we're just going to pull this right up through. And underneath, I just fed that a little toward the middle, and it just goes right up into the hole. You can kind of see it peeking through there. So that tail we'll just plug in right here, and we'll get routed in that way. And that way it will be away from the muffler, way over here where it's all hot. So that should be better than the original version. Now I just need to pull that grommet up through and make sure that seat's in there proper. Too high. That's the way it's supposed to be. That'll keep the water out. Now we're getting to the main part of this process. The next step says to take the long white tail and plug it into the left side. So we'll reach down here and plug in the left side connector. Click. And then it says to use the tie wraps and tie this all up to the right hand side. And plug in the other white connector. Here. Click. That's going to go that way. That leaves us a ground connector, a connector to the control box, and a connector that goes to the plug. Alright, let's see what we're supposed to do with those. Instructions say to go from that plug, tie the tail all along with the existing cable. Tie it up, tie it up, tie it up. When you get to the middle where the cable from the plug is, add that in. Keep going all the way across. So now you got both of those all the way over to the right. From here out, it looks like everything is going to be happening on the right hand side down here in the corner. Looking at the picture, they want us to stick the control box in that spot. And looking at this, I'm thinking the spot they're talking about is right down here. There's a flat spot there. We can put that there. Something else going on that's interesting. There's little flappy vents here. They're like one-way vents that just kind of hang. Those don't go to the big vent, or the fake vent. They must go down inside the corner of the fender somewhere. I'm looking at that thinking, how long is that going to be before I have mice in here? I'm not too keen on that. And we also need to put a ground in here. Says locate that ground bolt. I'm guessing that's just got to be one of these up here. Doesn't really matter, ground is ground. So let me get those hooked up. Just because I'm nosy, and I wonder why we're paying a premium price for this harness instead of just a generic kit. I wanted to see what was in here. And there's quite a bit of stuff in here. I'm guessing those may tell the computer to change some of the settings, or maybe it's just for the lights. I'm not entirely sure, but there's actually more in there than I expected. So let's hope the thing works. Got everything plugged together. Ground wire is that first bolt right there, just because it's convenient. They wanted you to mount the control box with the wires down, and I couldn't really get it all the way down with the wire sticking out the bottom, so I moved it up a little bit and plugged in the connector for the main plug, and then just kind of tied everything up with the tie wraps so that it can't move around. Nothing's going to clunk or rattle. Put the panel back in there. It should be all snug. There's enough room here with the bump to make that work. Let's jam it all back together. I jammed the inside all back together. Everything snaps back in quicker than it came out. A couple of pieces of hardware. Got some stainless hardware to screw my bracket on. Not thrilled, but I think it'll work. It's reasonably sturdy. I'm tempted to just make a hole, mount it right here on the plastic, but you hate to do things that are permanent like that. I wrapped up my connector with the black sealing tape. It may or may not do anything useful. Makes me feel better. It is automotive grade connectors with a silicone seal behind each pin, and there is a seal on this side of it, so it's a little bit better. That's the Scotch sealing tape. It's just a black, sticky, stretchy. Normally use it to seal up outdoor connectors and antennas and stuff. So let me snap that in place, and then we'll go do the last piece that's up in the engine compartment. Thought I ought to show you where that wire goes now that it's snapped together. It just kind of runs right back up in there, and that's completely away from where the muffler is, so it should be protected from the heat. And it just goes right up in above there, so should be ducky. Alright, the next step is to hook up these jumper things in the front. Each one is a little fused connector that goes between yeah, it's just a little fusey thing. Goes between a ground and a connector on the fuse box. I probably should have done it before I was messing around in the back, but before I start messing with the fuse box, I'm going to disconnect this battery. Just because. Just because I don't know what I'm doing. The fuse box is right here. Alright, how's that come off? Fuse box. Alright, and handy dandy instructions say, locate fuse box. Identify 22 pin connector and fuse box that the main harness power wire will be inserted to and unplug. And it looks like it's this one. Alright, let me get closer to that. Okay, so we want this outer connector right here. And I think if we just squeeze the tabby and give it a wiggle, that pops right out. And the instructions say, locate the proper cavities to be populated. Grip the wire behind the terminal of the jumper. Firmly insert in the rear of the connector with the existing wires. Repeat until both battery jumpers are plugged into the 22-pin factory connector. Reinsert back into the fuse box. Alright, and there's a picture on a diagram of which ones we want. And they are clip up. It's got to be third and fourth from the right on the bottom row. So it's got to be these two down here. And if you've never fiddled with these style pins, they just kind of snap in. So just gotta get oriented the right direction. Okay, that one was in. It looks like the smooth side is in and the jiggy part is out, and it just goes in the hole and it locks in, and there it is. If you wanted to take it out, there's kind of a special pin, that special tool that does that. And we should be able to just snap that right back in. Okay. And then it says, locate the M6 nut. Place ring terminals of battery jumper harness over stud on battery. But it doesn't say whether that's positive or negative. So let me figure that out. Based on the picture they gave me, it looks like that. I'm poking around, and I think what I want is you pop this little plastic cover off the red side of the battery, and that looks like that picture, with a cable coming off the right, a couple extra studs here, and an empty ring terminal right there. So there is in the box one more stray little nut. That looks like it would fit right there. Yes, it does. And they want us to take these rings and put them here. Rings. Screw that down. I guess the answer is those are positive. So they're probably providing power. Yeah, that might actually work, because there's a special little stick out for that. Alright, so I'll have to put that cover back on and put my ground back on and figure out how they want us to tie these down and get the covers back on. Okay, I put a couple of ties on those. Put one down here to help hold the pigtails feed down with the rest. And the picture shows one up here on this wire just to hold those up. That leaves those accessible if you ever need to get to those. We'll see how clunky they are when I get it put back on. I put one more tie on there. Put the covers on. I think that'll be alright. I don't think those will dance around too much. Those fuses are still accessible, so if something happens, you can get to those and change them. And let's go give it a try, see if it works. Oh, I can do the battery. Let's do that. I plugged my little 4-pin adapter in the back. Let's see what's going on. Trailer connected, rear safety and driver support disabled. That's a good sign. Let's go see anything else. Press brake pedal to start. Towing mode can now be selected. Yay! Looks like we're working. Towing. Yes, it replaced sport mode with towing mark. Rear sensor is disabled. Yes, that way it doesn't freak out when you get a big trailer back there. Towing. Normal. Off-road. Excellent. Got the little towing marker at the bottom. Sensor's disabled. Alright, let's go see if my little blinky in the back works. Bought a little 4-pin adapter for my connector. It's got some test lights on it so you can verify what's coming out of the plug. Looks like 2 blinky lights is hazard lights. The hazard lights are blinking. Let's try the turn signals. There's lefty. Got 1 blinky. There's righty. Got a blinky on the right. And it looks like running lights only is the single marker on the left. Interesting that my little test connector just does this little blinky thing when it's plugged in, but you're not actually activating anything. That may be just a confirmation that it's sensing the system. So I'm going to pull that out and disconnect, and let's go see what the system does now. Switch on, brake pedal, come on. Yep, now we're back to normal mode. Sport, normal, off-road. So when you plug that connector in, it definitely does see that there's something back there and switches it to the capability for towing mode. So we'll have to see how that works out. So far this process wasn't too bad. It wasn't too difficult to do. We'll see how it works out on the road.